human or material resources. And in this regard, we'll be talking about budget and what are the services you're going to render. And you also have to talk about how best you can monitor whether you are making progress or you are not making progress. So essentially, we are looking at, hello, just a minute. Hello.
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. All right. Later. So in this case, we want to look at elements of implementation. And these are administrative structures that is put in place. That is, there must be a structure that will ensure the way to implement a particular policy. A good example is, let's say, maybe a policy on child adoption in your state now. Policy on child adoption. The government will have to decide which of the ministry will be involved, or who are the stakeholders or the line ministry that will champion that particular policy implementation. In this case, Ministry of Women Affairs and Ministry of Women and Children Affairs may be charged with that responsibility. That is a structure. That is the ministry that will be doing that. Perhaps there will be some other department of other agency that will be involved. This structure will be specified in the policy. This structure will be itemized, and their links, their corresponding responsibility will be stated. So meaning that who is going to be the head of the administrative setup? Is it going to be commissioner? Is it going to be the permanent secretary? Is it going to be director of that particular department? You see, if the director is in one, it occupies one of the administrative structure, so who does he report to? Does he report to the permanent secretary? Does he report to the commissioner? In that way, administratively, there must be an administrative structure. Then there will be women and financial resources, like I said. Who are those to drive the policy? The policy implementers. Of course, civil servants are there to implement policies that are made by the politicians or by the executive, or that are made by those that are the chief executive, either in the ministry or the governor himself. So the policy will specify, will find in the policy who are the what resources are required to implement that policy to achieve its objectives. So you're talking about human resources, and you talk about staff, you talk about some other people that will be involved, you talk about other stakeholders as well. Then finance, we talk about budget the other time. That budget is important. The financial resources. Do you have the financial resources? Policy must specify, must provide for financial resources, or look for a way of mobilizing resources to finance that particular policy. If we are, let's take policy on the eradicating hunger now, or policy on ending poverty, or policy on empowerment, women empowerment. On women empowerment, you don't just go to people and tell them you are empowering them. Even if it's going to be education, it's going to be empowerment through education. You are going to spend money on meeting those that are to be beneficiaries. Even for you to organize a sensitization program, you need money. You need money. If it's going to be a 2-day program, it's going to be a day program, you need money. Either to rent chairs, either to rent canopies, either to even provide refreshment for your participants, you need money. You can't use your salary to do that. So the policy will specify that, and it will specify who to do what, and what is to be done by everybody involved in the implementation. Who will be responsible for so, and so. It will be specified. And who will provide the finance? Who will fund the program or services that you want to render? Then you can also talk about monitoring mechanisms. We talk here about monitoring and evaluation. In monitoring and evaluation, you want to assess the progress of policy implementation. Like I wouldn't know whether I said it the other time. You can evaluate or you can assess the progress made on conditional cash transfer that is being implemented presently in different local governments across the nation now. You can evaluate or you can assess. That is, you can monitor the progress that particular scheme has reached or has achieved. I mean, the performance of that particular program can be measured or can be monitored. When you monitor, you get to know how far that program has been able to achieve its objective. Has there been any effective performance of that policy? So it is through monitoring that you can get that. So in monitoring, you can also add evaluation. Monitoring is like a day-to-day, step-by-step assessment of the progress of any program. So these are an essential element in the policy. So there's no policy you see that will not have that. I know you have the national gender policy in your state. If you don't have, just take any policy document, go through it, you will see monitoring and evaluation as an important aspect of that particular document. Then communication strategies. If everything is put in the document, how best do you take this to the ordinary person? How best can you communicate? How best can you translate all you have to the public? Because policy is meant to serve the public, to solve a particular problem or to meet the needs of the public. I mean, the ordinary citizen, all the citizens of the state or of the country. So how do you communicate? How do you tell the beneficiaries, the expected beneficiary? How do you translate your plan? How do you let them know? It is through communication strategies that you will devise. So every policy has as its element communication strategy to be employed. Perhaps you're going to go through media by way of radio, television, or even social media. How do you want to go about it? Are you going to be doing jingles? Are you going to be sending messages? Are you going to create a social media platform? Or are you going to stage drama to drive home your point so that the public can understand what you have in the policy? You know, it's one thing to have good ideas, it's another thing to communicate that idea to the people. It's another thing to convey that beautiful idea to the people. And it's one other thing, if you don't have effective communication strategies, you may not achieve, you may not be able to, you may not win the heart of the public into what you are trying to do. That is why some good policies, when they are badly communicated to the people, they are thrown away because people will not understand. You know, before Buhari came on board, Jonathan, in 2014, President Jonathan, Ebele Jonathan, tried to remove subsidy, but some people resisted that move because they didn't understand well what the policy was all about then. Because they didn't buy into it because the government did not appoint, did not devise effective and efficient communication strategy to ensure that people understand the details of that subsidy removal. So the subsidy removal policy was resisted. But when this government came on board, he announced the first day as his the maiden speech. When the president announced that as his maiden speech, which is very, very germane and is an important speech, the first speech by Mr. President, so to say, after taking oath, is going to be taken serious and began to be cascaded into different platforms, and people got to know why he had to remove that subsidy. That is communication strategy. Then what are the challenges? That we face in policy implementation, we face challenge of inadequate funding. Of course, we know that. For every program that we have in this country, or every policy or every project, we will have inadequate funding. Bureaucratic inefficiency. You see, there is this bureaucracy introduced in civil service. It was introduced to ensure check and balances. It was introduced to ensure transparency and accountability. But people are using it to cause delays. People are using it in the negative so that things will not move as supposed to go. You see, this is inefficiency on the part of the practitioners, those that are bureaucrats. Whereas bureaucracy to ensure that there is check and balance, to ensure that there is transparency and accountability. Bureaucracy is not to delay any program or any project. But in Nigeria, it has turned to other things. They turned bureaucracy into several days file. People will delay file for several days on their tables. Is that not inefficiency? Files that are supposed to be treated within 1 hour, they may delay it for 24 hours, 48 hours. And the long run effect is felt by the beneficiary at the end of the day. So what you're supposed to achieve in 2 days or in 1 week, you may not achieve it in 1 month because of that delay. The lack of political will. Most of our policy makers, especially the politicians, the governors, most of them, they don't have the political will to drive home many policies they even formulated by themselves. They will not want to drive it. If there is that political will, they will want to do it. Mr. President decided that subsidy will be removed. And he stays by that particular policy up to the present moment because of what? Because the idea came from him and he wants it to be like that. There's that will, there's that willingness within him to ensure that that particular policy succeeds. Because of that political will, we are sailing through that subsidy removal regime, even with some turbulence anyway. Poor staff training. If I ask you, when last did you attend capacity building training at your local government service commission? When last? Suzanne, when last did you attend workshop sponsored by the government? When last did you attend training within your state, even outside your state? When last? Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, so
hello.
Something like that is very rare. It's very rare. It's very rare.
Hello.
Yes, I am hearing you.
Yeah, hearing you.
Hello, sir. I'm hearing you.
Okay, give me 1 minute, please.
I say, okay. Suzanne. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello.
Suzanne.
Hello, ma. Hello, ma.
Okay.
Mamba.
Oh, no, my phone number.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. We can hear you.
Yes, I asked a question. I said, when last did you attend a seminar or workshop within your state and outside your state? sponsored by the government?
Such thing in our own area is very rare. It is only the big men that are allowed to attend. Such things are very rare in our environments.
All right. You can see what I mean now. When I say poor staff training, so government does not give opportunity to staff on capacity building. Capacity building of staff, training and retraining is very, very important. Capacity building of personnel is an important thing to be taken very, very seriously in any organization, for that organization to live in the contemporary world. How will you not attain training within a year or 2 years while you are in service? There's need for in-service training, seminars, workshop, attending seminar, workshop, conferences. I know when you attend, even this conference on social work, when you attend, like the government may not even sponsor you. Government may not even sponsor you. This will definitely affect implementation of any policy. When you don't have the right training, how do you get the skill for the implementation? For those donor agencies, those partners, project partners, when they have a project, when they conceive a project or they are about to implement a project, whether 3, 4, 5 years, what they do first is to train those that will be involved in that project, because they understand the need and the importance of training. So, but this is lacking. That is why many policy they fail, because even when they formulate a policy and those who drive the policy are not trained in the way the policy will be implemented, it's going to be a challenge. Then what are the implementation models in policy? We have top down, bottom up, and hybrid, which I think you understand. It is, which of these model can you recommend, or do you think is in operation in your state? Which of these models, either top down, bottom up, or hybrid? Which one? I want your contribution. Yes. Talk now, Susan. Susan, can you hear me? Oh. All right. Amen. Can you hear me as well?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. I said, which of this model do you use in your state? Is it okay? Is email or con?
Email code, yes.
Which of these model, either top down, bottom up, or hybrid?
I have not talked about. We are talking. You just stop at the challenges. That is bureaucracy.
Yeah, I thought I discussed lack of political will. I discussed poor staff training. I now mentioned implementation models. I said top down, bottom up, hybrid. In implementing any policy, which one is in operation in your state? Is it top down or bottom up or both?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know which one.
You don't know which one is in operation, but you are in the service now. What I mean by top down is that there will be a policy that will be made at the top, and the grassroots people will not be involved, and the government will just dish it out to people for implementation, and they continue to implement from that end of the government to the grassroots. But the bottom up is that policy that carried people along in their implementation. You know, you want to implement a policy that has been made. The government will now decide who to handle what, and they bring all the personnel from that government side up down for the implementation. But another implementation is involving people, involving beneficiaries, that is from the grassroots, from the bottom. You involve people from the bottom from down up like that, so that people are carried along. So another implementation strategy is the one that will combine both. I am now asking, which one do you think, do you prefer? Which one do you prefer?
I prefer the one that will take everybody along, but the first one that you mentioned, the one that does not take everybody along, is what is applicable in our state. Because most especially what you're supposed to have done in the local government system is overtaken by state after having made a policy. They
Yes.
hijack everything and do by themselves. They don't
Okay.
share the policy as
Okay.
implemented.
So that happens in your state as well.
Yes.
Okay, imagine. So which means the states, all the states, almost all the states have usurped the power, absorbed the duties of all local government in their states. So, but importantly, I would prefer that hybrid is used so that it will combine the good things and top down and the good thing and bottom up. And this is going to give a good outcome. So, what are the role of social workers in policy implementation? You interpret policy to cleanse. You interpret policies, because ordinary people may not understand the policy, but you are going to interpret, because you are a social worker. You need to understand that policy that is to be implemented. And since you are involved, you'll be able to interpret very well, which means you are going to be the mouthpiece of government in telling people what the policy is all about. So you need to understand the policy as well as an individual. Then giving feedback on implementation gaps. If during implementation you have identified some problems, some gaps, you have identified a kind of inconsistency, or you have identified something that has not been addressed by the policy, so you're going to give feedback on it by way of reporting. Then you're going to bridge gap between service users and policymakers. Your beneficiaries, you're going to bridge gap. You're going to be intermediary between those that are beneficiaries and those that even make the policy in the first place. That is the policymakers. You're going to be the bridge between them. You're going to be the link between the two. I mean, between the grassroots people and the government you are representing. Because as a social worker, you are just that intermediary. You are just that person that will help in advocacy, that will help in lobbying government, that will help in even meeting with the community people. So let's consider this case study: implementation of the Child Rights Act in Nigeria. How do they implement? Just tell me one policy in your state that is being used presently, maybe in your local government or in your state. Let me put it in your state. In your state, what policy can you remember? Just tell me one policy. Hello?
Yeah.
Please respond now. Respond. Hello? Tell me one policy. Tell me any policy that you have come across in your state. Just tell me. I think you mentioned some policy that day when we met.
Yes.
You cannot remember, because I don't want to give you policy from my own end here. Just tell me any policy and let's see what is there in the policy. You cannot remember now. Is Susan with us? Susan? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Are you with
Hello.
us? Hello, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, network is bad in my place, oh.
Network.
Hello, sir.
Hello, I can hear you.
Network is bad. Network
It's
is
very
bad.
poor. Okay. Okay. Email, what about you? Tell me any
I
policy.
can hear.
Yeah, tell me any policy in your place. Okay, you cannot remember. Anyway, you can talk about Child Rights Act. It's also a policy. You can also talk about even your budget. Even the budget your local government also prepares, it's a policy. It's a policy statement. In your budget, you have budget for social welfare. In that budget, how do you translate? How do you implement that budget in your department? How do you implement that budget in your local government? Budget is a policy document. It only talks about finances, how you can finance several projects. But projects are there in the budget that are spelled out. Your local government chairman may want to construct road, may want to build road, 1 kilometer road or 2 kilometer roads. How much is it? How much is budgeted for such a road? How much is budgeted for providing palliatives to victims of flood or victims of flooding? How much are you going to spend to provide empowerment items to women that deserve such? How much are you going to spend to train 30 women from all the local governments on soap making, or to organize a skill training program for some youth? How much are you going to spend? There may be a policy on youth by your local at the level of your local government. There may be policy on women empowerment. There may be policy on sports. There may be policy on different sector of social welfare. When you have such, that policy, how do you implement them? That's what you are saying. How do you implement that policy from your hand? Maybe when the policy is made, you are part of that. When the chairman is thinking of what to do for his people. When the chairman is thinking of what to do for his people, you now decide that this is going to be my policy. I want to do some social welfare programs. I want to provide welfare packages for the widows, for the orphans, for the vulnerable groups. I want to do that. When the chairman decides that, he may now say, okay, what I'm going to do is, for each ward, I want them to give me two women, two widows, or two orphans to empower. And when they get that, he said, okay, the next thing is to give them money, or the next thing is to sensitize them, to create awareness, to tell them, to train them how they're going to make use of the money that will be given to them as seed money. After the training, they now give out the money. That is a policy being implemented. And the process of giving out the money, you are involved. The process of training them, you are involved. The process of discharging them, giving them the seed money, and after that, you now go back after 2 months to monitor whether those beneficiaries are making use of the money or the materials that are given to them as empowerment items or as empowerment materials. If it is tailoring, if it is soap making, if it is selling some things, you can monitor. How are they faring in that? That is monitoring. So you are doing that as a social worker. So if you don't monitor, some may even collect those seed money and spend on frivolities. Some may collect that money to spend on burial. Some may even collect the materials and resell because they say they need money than giving them sewing machine. So this is what we are saying. So why do some well-formulated policy fail at the implementation stage? Why do they fail? You can think about that. How can frontline worker help improve implementation outcome? Why do policy fail in Nigeria? So go and think about that. The monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring, evaluation, and policy impact. What do we monitor? Why do we evaluate? We monitor because I've been talking about monitoring. Let's go back to the example of women empowerment. In the women empowerment, the policy is you are giving them some material. Let's say you are giving them sewing materials. You have given 20 or 30 women sewing equipment, sewing machines for them to empower them economically so that they can be doing that. You have trained them. You have trained them. They have gone through the training. They already have the knowledge. It's for them now to translate. For them to be making use of to apply the knowledge they acquired during training. You are now giving them sewing machines, maybe after about 6 months or 1 year of training. You give them sewing machines, they get up and they start working. If you just leave them like that, some may even pack the sewing machine in one corner, or some may even sell the sewing machine and they use the money to feed their family. So if you don't monitor They will just do it the way they. But when you monitor, you give them that after 3 months you are coming to check whether they are using that machine or not. That is monitoring. So monitoring and evaluation are essential for ensuring policy effectiveness and accountability, like I said the other time. In monitoring, is an ongoing assessment of activities and outputs. Evaluation is periodic assessment of outcomes and impact. I want you to get it. When you monitor, is ongoing, is step-by-step assessment of activities and outputs. Like the example of sewing machine. Now, at the point of giving them sewing machine, they have given them. So you want to monitor now. Maybe the second month of giving the machine out, you go there to check. Do you still have the machine? You are Mrs. Ekaite, and this is your machine. You check. Maybe out of 30, you just go around the 30 beneficiaries and you check them. They would have known that you have come to check. So if after 3 months you go again, they would have known that you had earlier come. They will not want to tamper. They want to maintain that machine. They want to go on with the intended with the intention that the government has to give them that machine. So they will not want to derail. So that is monitoring. After 3 months again, you go again. Or it is after every month, after every month, or in every month, you go to monitor. You go to check whether they are using it or they are not using it. That is, you are monitoring their activities. It's short term. The output is you have gone to see 30 and you have seen 30, or perhaps you've been able to see 20, you've been able to see 28. That is an output. But when you come to evaluation is more broader in the sense that it's periodic assessment. It could be every 3 months, it could be quarterly, it could be annually, it could be annual. In this case, you want to measure outcomes and impact. Outcomes is a grade above output, and impact is a grade above outcome. Let me clarify so that you understand very well. When we talk about output, you are talking about the achievement of the objective. You are talking about objective being achieved. You have seen that objective being achieved, and you can see the concrete achievement of that objective. But when it comes to outcomes, the outcome is you are effectively and efficiently, you desire or you aim to have a particular, to achieve a particular objective. And that objective is achieved. After being achieved, the purpose for which that particular activity has been undertaken is also achieved. Let me give you a clear example. Then the impact is what effect does that outcome bring? Does that particular activity bring? Let me start again. Let me go again. Output is just the result of an activity. Result of an activity. You just get the results. For example, in our own example of women empowerment now, the policy says you want to provide 30, you want to empower 30 women, 30 vulnerable women, let's say widows. You want to empower 30 women. And on the day of empowerment, you want to give out empowerment materials. You bring out 30 women. You are able to get 30 women as beneficiary, and you gave them the machine. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Giving them the 30 machines, that is an output. You see, the aim of the government is to empower 30 women, isn't it? And you have been able to get 30 women and you are giving them 30 machines. That is an output. But the overall aim of government is to empower them economically, for them to have a means of livelihood, isn't it? It's for them to have a means of livelihood, so that they will not be depending on some other people to eat, to feed their family. That's the overall aim, isn't it? But for you to get that overall aim, you must provide 30 sewing machines to 30 women, isn't it? So that when you give 30 sewing machines, That is an output. That is an output. You know, it's one thing to give machine. It's another thing for them to use machine to earn money. So when they now use machine, then when they use the sewing machine, they put it into use. They don't lock it inside their house. They don't sell it to somebody else in exchange for money. They are using it for the purpose for which it is meant. That is outcome. That is what? That is outcome. It means they are using it to earn money. They are getting paid for any service they render using that particular sewing machine. Are you following my trend? Now,
yes,
that is outcome. That is outcome. You know, the essence is to empower them economically, but they are not getting money from it. They are using it. They are sewing clothes and they are getting money from it. They have become fashion designers, isn't it? That is outcome. But outcome, you cannot just stop at outcome and say the policy has succeeded. There is another aspect of policy implementation, which is impact. The impact is, okay, they have the machine. They are working. They are using the machine to work to earn a living. Now, they are getting money. But is the money they are earning from using that machine, is it enough to solve their problem? Is it enough to lift them out of poverty? Is it enough to feed their family? That is impact. Do you understand it? That is impact. You cannot see, you can see that graduation. A policy, I mean, an activity or an objective, or let me say an activity may have output, or a program may have output. Such a program may not have outcome, and such a program may not have impact. It may just stop at output. Some may even graduate to outcome. Some may get to impact. It is when we have those three elements in a program or activity that we say such an activity has achieved its objectives. Very well. So, realizing your objective effectively is output. Efficiently is outcome. Both effective and efficient is impact, because you can now feel the effect on that beneficiary. At that stage, the beneficiary can now change her clothes. The beneficiary can send her children to school. The beneficiary can feed. The family of the beneficiary can feed 3 times a day without any problem. So, which means malnutrition will not be in their family. It means that education, they will have access to education. They will be going to school. The children will be going to school. They will not lack education. You can see the impact. Then they will not be suffering from any diseases, and they will even have money to live well. Socially, they will live well. Their status will have changed. The status of all the status of that particular woman will have changed. People are looking down upon her as this is a woman that doesn't change clothes throughout the week. But now she can change clothes 3-4 times a week. You know, her status has changed. That is the essence of any program or any policy. So a policy will have output, outcome, and impact. So we can measure that when you do assessment on activities and output. That is monitoring. You know, that is at lower end. But when you go further to assess, to have a periodic assessment of outcomes and impact, we are talking about evaluation. I've taken much time in explaining this. I hope you understand my logic. Okay.
Yes, sir.
MIE tools. Now we have logical framework approach. Theory, we can use theory of change. What does theory of change mean? When you have a problem, how do we solve that problem? A problem in the society, how do you now use the theory of change? The theory of change explains that the situation will determine what to do and the kind of improvement you want to bring to that society. In theory of change, when there is a problem, there must be a way of getting out of that problem. In which case, you want to move away from a problem and you provide solution. While providing solution, you have improved the standard of the people that are concerned. For instance, where there are no schools, in a community there is no school, people in that community don't have access to education. That is a problem. You have identified that problem, you now provide solution. How do you solve the problem? By doing what? By bringing school to them, establish a primary school and make the school free. You know, many people who attend it in that rural community, and by that they have access to education, and they can also possess certificate in primary. They can possess certificate for attending primary school, and they can use that to even get some jobs, even as a cleaner, as a gardener, as a security, and so on and so forth. That is the theory of change. You identify a problem and you provide solution to it, and you change that condition. Then key performance indicators. There are indicators that will tell you that you are progressing. These are some of the tools that they use. Social return on investment. These are tools they use in measuring, in monitoring, and evaluation. What are the steps in evaluation? You set objectives. You select indicators. What are the indicators? Indicator will let you know when you get to your destination, when you get to your bus stop. Indicators will allow you to know whether you are making progress or you are not making progress. If that's our example of women empowerment, you want to know whether you have achieved that. The indicator, you have to set the indicator. Perhaps number one, what change do you see in that woman, in that beneficiary? Is there any change in her? Perhaps number of her children going to school, or number of times they eat daily. These are indicators. What you just, when you go there, you want to know, you just look at it and say, how many of your children are in school? She says 3. Then you can get the number. Maybe she has 4 children and 3 of them are going to school. Before, none of them was in school, but now 3 are in school. That is an indicator. It means that the woman has changed. Everything has changed in her life. Then you can also collect and analyze data. You collect data like I was talking about, number of children. You get that for 30 benefits, from 30 beneficiaries. You get those data and you can analyze. You can use descriptive method or you can use analytical method. You can use descriptive method or qualitative method for you to analyze, or inferential method, inferential statistics to analyze your data. You interpret and report findings. Whatever finding you get from the data, you can interpret and you report it. Then you make recommendations, because for any research, for any steps you are taking, you are evaluating for what? You are evaluating for you to get the gaps, for you to track whether there is a problem in the implementation. When you do that, you need to recommend, and that gives us a recommendation. Then we have participatory evaluation, which involves communities in assessing how policies affect them. That is participatory. Feedback loops and policy revision. Every policy has its span, whether 3, 4, 5 years. Some policy like that, they have their span, which means after 5 years, this policy must be reviewed. It is always stated in the policy document. That is feedback, because you must have done monitoring, you must have done evaluation for you to know that this policy is no longer useful at this point in time. There is need to review some aspect of that policy. You know, policy made in the 80s, policy made in the 90s cannot stand the test of time now. Because of what? In the 80s, in the 90s, there was no social media being used. So if the policy then, if at all the policy then will refer to any telephone communication, if they will refer to United, this landline. But now we'll make use of mobile phone, mobile telephone. We're talking about WhatsApp now. We are talking about Facebook. We are talking about Instagram. We talk about what other one after the Instagram, and so on and so forth. LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. All these were not there. But if a policy has stated that this is the method you use to disseminate information or to communicate with the people, In those days, it used to be radio and television. But now, we now have digital method or digital channels that you can watch. You can watch CNN, you can watch any station all over the world through your satellite. Even on your phone with your data, you can watch all this. You can watch live television. You can also listen to live radio programs. But in those days, they were not there. So that one will make those policy obsolete. So it calls for revision and it calls for change. So data-driven feedback improve future policy cycles. You have case study evaluating the national homegrown school feeding program. You can evaluate that and you look at the discussion questions that are here. You can use them to how does MIE support transparency and accountability? What are the limitations of quantitative evaluation in social policy? I mentioned quantitative and qualitative. So you can do that. Case study in policy formulation and implementation. This is just to bring to your notice some cases that you can try. That is from theory to life examples. Case study applied theory to real life example, drawing lessons from policy successes and failures. You can look at that policy on female genital mutilation elimination policy in your state. It could be child trafficking. It could be child abuse policy. It should be women violence against women, and so on and so forth. So if we look at female genital mutilation, goal is to end female genital mutilation. Who are the actors? NGO, Ministry of Health, traditional leaders. What are the outcomes? What do we want to have at the end of implementing the program? Increased awareness, enforcement, challenges. These are what you're going to get as the outcome. Case study 2, free maternal healthcare policy in Ondo State. The same thing. Case policy 3, national social investment program. Focus is cash transfer, youth employment, empowerment, school feeding. Outcome is missed success due to funding and politicization. This is what has happened. This is what has happened before now, and we can just look at them and see what has actually operated. Just 1 minute, please. Hello, sorry, I'm back. Sorry for the break in transmission. Susan, are you there?
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay. So quickly, as I was saying, these case studies, they are about policies that have been implemented, and what has been the outcomes of that implementation. That is why you see these case studies there, because in the implementation of female genital mutilation elimination policy in Osun, the goal is to end female genital mutilation, but the outcome is we have increased awareness of the fact that genital mutilation, female genital mutilation is still prevalent in Osun, but there has been increased awareness about it, that we have it. Many people didn't know before, but many have known now. Then there have been enforcement challenges as well. So the same thing, the one in Ondo State, staffing shortages, infrastructure gaps, these are challenges that have been identified due to implementation of such a policy. Look at one policy in your state. Look at, just study a policy in your state. What have been the success stories of those policies, and what have been challenges, and how best you can overcome that challenge. Recommend to your government the need to review that policy if it is not achieving its objectives. Then you can also talk about lesson learned in all this. Political will is crucial in policy formulation and implementation. What are the lessons learned? Political will is always crucial for policy formulation and implementation. Stakeholder engagement improves buy-in. Like I told you the other time, when you communicate properly the policy document, then you need to win the hearts of the stakeholders. When they buy in, that policy will succeed. The monitor and evaluation ensures learning. You continue to learn when you monitor and you evaluate. What are the activities that you can do? You can do a role play, simulate a policy advocacy meeting. Let me give you a group assignment that I can give you is audit a local policy using SWOT analysis. How can you audit a local policy use SWOT analysis? Just look at it, think about it. Individual task is draft a policy brief. Let me see, draft a policy brief from your own end. Just find out the way they draft policy brief that you can submit to your chairman in the local government, or you can submit to any policy maker. So that one, how do you draft it so that it will be captivating, it will be compelling enough to ensure that the policy makers can buy into that particular policy? So what factor led to the success or failure of each case? What role did social worker play in each policy case to have that failure? So that has brought us to the end of this particular course. And let me give you room to ask questions or comments so that we can do that in a few minutes. So thank you so much for your attention and for sacrificing your time as well. So let me listen to you. I want to hear from you. You know, we are just 3 here. Let me hear from you. I want to stop sharing. Hello?
Yeah.
Any question?
Any question?
Any question? Email? Any question?
No question.
Yes, ma. Any question? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Sir, I don't have any question.
You don't have any question? Is that Suzanne?
Yes, sir.
Or email? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question, but I want to say is that the policy that you have told us for some years back,
I can't hear you.
we were
Sorry,
using our.
hear you.
You can't hear me.
Hello, the network. Your network is not good over there. I can't hear you. Can you hear Susanna? Sorry, Susanna. Can you hear?
Network, but I can hear you very well.
Hello,
Suzanne.
you can put off your video and put off your video, email, so that I can hear you. Put off your video. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
I said through the policy we have just
Oh, it's your network.
From
okay.
time past.
Okay.
We've been using our children as in.
Go ahead, man.
We've been using our children to hawk.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm afraid we may have to end the class.
But the time came.
Anyway. I can't hear you. But
that's something of that nature. The children now.
I will send the material to you, and so that you can just go through. So I don't know if I have the time. We'll start the other class by weekend. So I will let you know. So I want to thank you. So until that time we meet. Again, I want to say enjoy your day and have a restful night. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. I'll bid you people bye-bye.
Bye, bye. We have heard
Bye,
you.
sir. Bye, sir.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. So this brings us to the end of the lecture. So when we meet again, we're going to add whatever is necessary to be added. Bye-bye and enjoy your day.